Thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalists Hangout. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. In the next 85 days, Nigerians will vote in another election to choose leaders, and as the all-important polls draw closer, we ask, what is your voting status? Today on the program, Saraki demands inquiry into death of Offa Robbery prime suspect in police custody. University lecturer strike persists as ASUP extends strike notice ultimatum to November the 30th. And later on the show, Southeast leaders table demands before Buhari as the president promises that the region will get more in 2019. I will be hanging out with Martins Oloja and Mobolade Omonijo. Thanks for coming to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Journalist Hangout starts now. All right, on April the 5th, evil visited Offa, Kwara State when armed robbers shot and killed 33 persons, including policemen, before robbing 5 banks. Nigerians were shaken by the incident, especially when CCTV footage of the attack appeared on social media like a scene from a tragic film. More than 20 persons were arrested in connection to the robbery before the suspects list was trimmed to 6. After months in detention, drama has greeted the arraignment of the suspects. On Wednesday, a high court in Ilorin heard that the prime suspect, Michael Adiku, has died in police custody. Reacting to this, Senate President Bukola Saraki, who was implicated in the Offa robbery, has called on the presidency to set up a judicial inquiry. Let's watch this report. But we warn that some scenes may be disturbing.
It was a robbery that shocked Nigerians. Bandits shot 33 people, including policemen. The CCTV footage of the attack seems like a scene from a tragic movie, and the robbers operated seamlessly for more than an hour. They subdued the personnel at the nearest police station, killed policemen, bank workers, and passers-by. They then blew up bank vaults and emptied them before escaping with their loot. Police later arrested the suspects, and after months of detention, we now know that the prime suspect, a former police officer, is dead. At the beginning of their trial in Ilorin, the prosecutor told the court that Michael Adiku died in police custody. The other 5 suspects appeared in court, but without legal representation.
We were informed by the police headquarters that the first accused person, who happened to be the ringleader as referred to by the police, that is dead. Normally, his name is on our charge sheet as the first accused person. So we have no choice in the circumstance than to amend the charge to remove his name.
Police had always linked the robbery kingpin to Senate President Bukola Saraki, deepening the already sour relationship between Mr. Saraki and the police boss Ibrahim Idris. The Senate President denies the accusations. The death of the prime suspect now puts a fresh spin on the case.
Now, as the report says, the death of the suspects puts a fresh spin on this case.
Fresh spin.
But then the Senate President has reacted, and he's saying that he has now been vindicated, that this case was actually politically motivated to implicate him, and he has once mentioned that this prime suspect is dead. Martin?
Well, vindication? Well, I am not too sure of vindication because it is the court that will determine that. But, you know, the political implication, and this thing is not new. As I just was discussing with my colleague before we began this process, you know that they have now strengthened the hand of the Senate President, who had said that the case was politically motivated and that he and his own group had announced earlier that the guy, the principal suspect, this Michael Adiku, had been murdered in police custody, which was denied by the PPRO, this Moshood Jimo. And now look at the disclosure that he had not been murdered, but they disclosed that he had died in police custody. And this has actually altered the entire process.
In what ways?
Well, definitely, you say the principal suspect is dead. You know, in a normal society, if the principal suspect is dead, there are still other suspects.
Of course.
But you know the kind of controversy that has attended this process is what has elicited that kind of comment on this case. You know, on this case, the Senate president said he had even been humiliated. On the eve of a major event like that, or even another political event, he had been ordered to report, the president of the Senate, ordered to report at a police station in Abuja on this case because he had been implicated. On so many issues like that, it had, just as the reporter indicated, it had deepened again the rift between the Inspector General of Police and the President of the Senate. You know, it's been prosecuted at the highest level of the police force. The Inspector General of Police is involved. His office had always issued statement on this matter, not just a prosecutor that has been identified, the Inspector General of Police. But as this one has been disclosed, it means that they will have to adjourn this case, they will have to plead and say that this is what we said. But everything, as I said earlier, will be discussed in the court and not in, we are not going to decide that one at journalists hangout.
Yes, but then there are issues that surround this that has to be discussed, because one will think that as a principal suspect, protection will be given to him such that you know, that this person has a lot of information that will determine how justice is done, because about 32 persons died. 33 persons died in this case. And so now that this has happened for you, what do you see happening?
Well, first of all, I think that the police owes us a duty to give us to make full disclosure of the circumstances of death. Because one could die of natural causes, and anybody could die anytime. Did he die of complications arising from sickness that you did not get medical treatment in good time? Or, as they usually do, is it that he was tortured to death? I mean, we should know some of these things.
I think that's what the Senate President is asking. It's
very important. I don't know whether it's a judicial commission of inquiry that is required, because the Senate President is asking the President to institute a judicial commission of inquiry. I don't know whether that, but certainly the police owes us duty as the public. 33 souls were snuffed out. It was a dastardly act. You had a police station that was razed. You had policemen that were killed. That thing lasted about 1 hour, and you did not have policemen or other security people mobilized within the period from neighboring towns to come and corner these people. And when the Senate President first said that the guy had been killed, that was his own allegation, Mr. Jimo Moshood said, no, he's being kept in one of the states in the southwest. That's what he said then. Now he has died. When did he die? How did he die? We should know.
And do you think that they'll you know, give us such information?
Oh, it's our duty to ask them. They owe us that duty. They should inform us. It's public interest. It's not police versus Saraki. It's Nigerian nation. It's Nigerian state. These are Nigerians.
Lives were involved.
Lives were involved. And talking about Michael Adiku, yes, it is true that this has introduced a new dimension to the entire story. It's a twist to the matter. Yes, no doubt about that. But even then, like he said, in other crimes, it will not kill the matter because it's a crime against the state. And you have some of the other suspects who have been arrested. If the police is alive to its responsibility, they will be able to take the investigation further and ensure that there is swift prosecution. 7 months is gone down the line. Not a step has been taken. 7 months down the line. Investigations, they say, had been on. How far have they gone with the investigations? They brought in all sorts of things as to who might be concerned, who may not be involved, and that even took the narrative out of the crime that it was. We brought in full politicization of the process. I think there is a need for our police to rise above partisanship and for them to, at all times, be professional in their duty.
All right, like Saraki is asking, a judicial inquiry to confirm when the suspect died, how he died, and when the leadership of the police became aware of the suspect's death. Do you see that happening, looking at how inquiries have gone in this country?
Well, the answer may be blowing in the wind, because you know what happens here? The Senate, the president of the Senate, asking the president to issue a commission of inquiry. This comes at a time, even people are suspicious of neutrality of the police force, even in matters that concern the opposition, especially. Looking at how this thing has dragged onto this one, and this Senate president, who has been dragged to even the Code of Conduct Tribunal, who has been dragged to court on several cases, and on several occasions because of one reason or the other, even since 2015, even one case dragged to Supreme Court. Yes. And you know that you see mutual suspicion. You know, there have been suggestions even here that, look, they should find a way of settling their matters. Now election has come. The president of the Senate is in an opposition party. Even the speaker of the House of Representatives is from the opposition. And they have not been able to resolve that. Or most of the things that they should have resolved even before election, they haven't resolved it. As he said, something that involves crime against the state, it's a case against the state, is now being politicized. Politicians are talking, suggesting commission of inquiry. Which one are they going to face? Is it commission of inquiry or prosecution of the suspects? These are issues about delay justice in Nigeria. When justice is delayed, sometimes justice is denied. But you know, this thing now is, as they say, is complicated. The Judicial Commission of Inquiry about the circumstances surrounding the death. Is it complicated, or we are making it complicated? Well, definitely we are making it complicated. Because which one are we going to face? Is it Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the circumstances of the death of one suspect, or the death of 33, and the prosecution of the remaining suspects? Which one are we going to face? I think of what led to his death has to be known. It has to be known, yes, definitely. Nigerians demand to know. Given the circumstances that have surrounded this, one, there was an allegation earlier that the guy had been murdered. And now they said, no, at that time, that I know the suspect was being kept in the southwest state. Yeah. Now, in court on Wednesday, they said the guy had actually died. When did he die? What killed him? Where did he die? What were the circumstances? Who was told that he had died? You know, who killed him or what killed him? What were the circumstances? These are basic questions in a good society that the people demand to know, not just because it is Michael, a former police officer, Adiku. So one person, the death of one person should matter to everybody, because it could have been anybody. It could have been me. It could have been anybody as a suspect that would just die like that. All right, quickly, we have Rafiu on the line calling from Osun State. Rafiu, welcome to the program. Go ahead with your contribution. Rafiu, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. All
right, welcome. Go ahead with your contribution. Okay.
Am I communicating?
Go ahead.
Okay. This of bank robbery. Please, I'm very, very surprised they are demanding for a commission of inquiry on an armed robber. He robbed, CCTV picked his picture. What commission of inquiry again? If something happened and somebody mentioned, say my name, if that person even dies, I should be suspected. What commissioner of inquiry mentioned the Senate president's name, and the man dies in the prison? If they want to suspect, they should suspect the Senate president. If the local commission of inquiry, CCTV picked his picture.
All right, Rafiu, thank you for your contribution. Well, I think you might want to clear some things.
No, definitely me. I don't understand the logic behind this kind of argument that issues. The suspect was not kept in the custody of the Senate or the Senate president. So how should the Senate president be suspected? Me, I don't understand the logic of the caller. Maybe you understand.
No, it's not.
Perhaps he's saying that a commission of inquiry is not necessary.
Yeah,
no, that's angle. We have said that too.
Yeah, we have talked about that.
Inquiry. It's not also because he says because he was just a cheap criminal. Yeah. The Senate president is also not asking for commission of inquiry on the man, but on the circumstances
surrounding his death. Surrounding the man's death.
I mean, suggesting probably that he might have been murdered for some reasons. I mean, those are the things. But even at that, we can't be talking of commission of inquiry into his death when the principal case is pending in court. They should prosecute the case. We have some evidence, and some of the suspects are there. So we should continue with the case.
Well, some of the suspects do not have representation. That's legal representation.
It is the duty of the state to supply representation where there is no representation.
So how do we, because the courts are talking about speeding up trial. If there's no legal representation, how do you speed up trial?
A lot is wrong with all these things.
With the judicial system.
Because the justice system as a whole, including the police for the investigation, including prosecution, the trial, and the eventual...
That's a legal aid council.
There is a legal aid council that should supply, because it's a crime. You cannot continue with it unless they are represented. And everybody knew. Before they were arraigned, they knew they would need legal representation.
The legal aid council was
there's something wrong. There's a missing point.
Perhaps this is why some people believe that there is some foul play somewhere.
See, the case is against the state. When I say state, not just Kwara, the Nigerian state. And it is the Attorney General of Kwara State that was there to lead the prosecution. And the governor of Kwara State is somehow mentioned in connection with this case. So a whole lot that we may not fully understand as it's going on for now. Maybe in due course, we'll be able to get to the root of the matter.
Definitely.
In due course.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you positive about that?
Yeah, no, one is positive because one of the challenges we have been discussing is diligent prosecution or lack of it in our judicial system. Lack of diligent prosecution, they keep bringing delays. Some people have blamed members of the NBA for complicating matters most of the time in court because they want to delay matter and help their clients and all those things, and even some courts will not sit in good time. Even some of the judges will be pleased to adjourn cases indefinitely. Some will say, I have some wedding to attend and all those things, because even the council that is supposed to oversee what is going on, sometimes it's not diligent. We just get, we complicate matters over some frivolous issues like that because of even lack of due diligence on the part of the people who are supposed to oversee, who are supposed to call them to order. They don't do diligent work. And even we, the people and members of the civil society, I mean, the civil society organizations too are not vigilant in calling attention as we used to do to bring about this democracy. Some of us, as we were joking here, we covered the process leading to this democracy.
If you could just hold the thought, we have Mike on the line calling from Abuja. Welcome, Mike. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, the last caller made a point, but it seems you people don't get him right.
Okay. All right, explain it to us.
Saraki knows that the crime suspect was dead that time he made the allegation. Secondly, Saraki cannot be absolved of all these things happening. You people might not understand, but those of us from the Southwest will know what really happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, for your contribution.
Sorry, can I quickly
Yes, you can quickly react to that.
Nobody is absolving anybody of anything. No. It's for the court of law to absolve anyone.
Yes.
And it's also for the prosecution to present its case.
Yes.
All we are
the
saying
defense.
is that the police has a duty to be professional in playing its role, and for the prosecution to be diligent in presenting the matter, and for the courts also to be ready to get to the root of this matter in good time. Nobody is absolving anyone. We can't. We are not here. It's not a court of law. We are not in a position to say that.
No.
Yeah, of course.
No. So, and as to whether the Senate President got to know early or not, those things we are not also in position to know exactly when the guy died, because the police at the time denied it. Yes. But was he dead at that time? Was he alive at that time? Was the police lying? These are issues that we should come up with.
We bring out that.
All right, you were making a point.
Yes, you see, as a corollary to that, you will recall that a lot of other disclosures had been made. There was a disclosure that the Director of Public Prosecution had released a report absolving some of the suspects, including the Senate President and the Governor, which the police authorities denied. A lot of things that anybody, a suspect, can do some investigation and get pieces of information that can help his own case. That's not a problem. But we cannot begin to do trial here because it has not even begun. If it begins, we cannot do any trial. We can only comment on some matters that will not interfere with the administration of justice.
Definitely.
We cannot do that. We can give, not to talk of judging whether somebody is guilty or not. We are discussing circumstances
issues
surrounding this case that has not actually begun.
All right, we have Christian on the line calling from Lagos. So welcome, Christian. Go ahead with your contribution.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good evening.
Actually, attending the topic you are discussing now. From my own perspective, I feel there's no how the Senate President will not know about the issue. Because from outside here, we know, sorry to say, we never have person is, if not public, I don't want to say publicly, but from my own side, I feel the death of the guy cannot just be ordinary. The person holding the case should be hold responsible and know, they should ask him or be investigated so that they can know actually cause the death of the guy. But I can't say the Senate President shouldn't be suspected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. All right, we understand that the courts has to, prove beyond reasonable doubt whoever is guilty or not guilty. But then obviously from the Senate President has to do a job of vindicating himself. From all of these issues. But moving forward now, earlier I talked about no fewer than 33 persons, like you said, were killed in this case. What would you see to be justice done, not just done, but seen to be done?
Oh yes, that's the point. Justice done and justice seen to be done. And it starts from investigation, due investigation, that all of us could see is leaving no question hanging. Then to due prosecution. Many cases have been messed up at the level of prosecution, sometimes deliberately. So we need to have due prosecution. Then both common mistakes, elementary mistakes, like allowing the suspects to come to court without representation, is not the kind of thing that we should be seeing in a case as sensitive as this. The state should immediately come up with all the angles, make sure that all the angles are fixed, as we go on with this case. And it must be with some form of speed. Let's see from day to day how the case is progressing. The soul of the nation was seared on that April, is it 5th or 4th?
Yes, April 5th.
On that April 5th. You saw the way they attacked, you saw the way they killed, you saw the way they invaded the police station, you saw the way they raided 5 banks in the same day in a town like Offa. So, and since then, we have been moving at snail speed, doing absolutely nothing, really. I mean, except to throw some brick bats. We should move beyond that.
Yes.
All right, we'll need to quickly take this break and then I'll come back to you to get your final word on that. When we return, university lecturers' strike persists as ASUP extends strike notice ultimatum to November the 30th. Stay with us. You're still watching the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. Let's quickly take your last word on
the last word is to ensure that justice is done, because we may be asking for peace everywhere. Like Peter Tosh told us long ago, everyone is asking for peace now. No one is asking for justice. And I think, as he said, justice and sin to be done. And I think that is the thing. And there should be diligent prosecution. There should be suspicion. You know, we shouldn't find suspicion hanging around. If they begin diligent prosecution, it will remove suspicions. And that is what will ensure peace in the mind of people. When justice is being done, and justice is pursued and is seen to be done, and that will ensure peace, even in the mind of the people. People who have lost their loved ones. 33.
Of course. All right, moving on now. For more than 2 weeks, government-owned universities have remained shut. Hopes for reopening were dashed exactly a week ago. A meeting between ASU and the federal government to commence negotiations on issues that gave rise to the ongoing strike deadlocked. University lecturers are adamant on staying away from the classrooms until government honor its obligations to the union and also fund the revitalization of Nigerian universities. On the flip side, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, is also threatening to go on strike. The union has given the federal government until November the 30th to address issues of unimplemented needs assessment report of 2014, non-payment of arrears, and the yet-to-be-signed into law Polytechnics Act. How do we avoid a total shutdown of all public tertiary institutions?
It's tragic because it's recurring from time to time. It's not the first time we will see this. 2009, there was an agreement. The agreement was signed but not implemented. Every year since then, there have either been threats of strike or there have been some strike or warning strike. And yet we've not been able to get to the root of the matter. I mean, I don't really blame the university lecturers. I don't really blame them.
We haven't gotten to the root of the matter, or we are not ready to get to the root of the matter.
Perhaps we are not ready to get to the root of the matter. I think they have even established, because if they sat around the table, if they were able to reach some agreement, it meant that they knew what was wrong with the system. But we are unable, or we have refused to treat the matter. It's either the government's position is that at the moment, given the recession in the economy, they could not implement some of these things that have to do with finances. And the lecturers are saying, yes, you have a point, but we cannot see recession in your own lifestyle. There's opulence everywhere. You see a governor going from here to Abuja, and he goes with some 15 people to do nothing because he's going to hold a meeting. You see, the kind of opulence we see with our leaders has not changed over the years. The security votes that you see the governors and co presiding over and dispensing the way they like, it has not reduced. You do not see evidence of an economy in some form of recession in the lifestyles of those who are in government. There's nothing that has been scaled down. We were here when Mr. Shehu Sani came up and said that they were being paid, how much is it, 6 million naira or thereabout. And that does not reflect the state of the economy. Why is it that it is the common worker with his minimum wage or the university lecturer
has to bear the brunt?
That will bear the brunt. So there has to be some patriotism that we could see with those who have been entrusted with leadership position, with the common will of the people. But it's only when you see that you can now say, see, because of the state of the economy, let's defer this a little. But you've not seen people, you've not seen the leaders living up to the expectation. And that is a problem that we have. So I won't blame the lecturers in deciding to go on strike after some warning strikes, after some meetings, after the failure of government to address the issues that they raised. I mean, maybe I don't want to jump into their soup, but their soup, they first of all gave 21 days. They gave it on October 2. Of course, that should have expired by October 23. They shifted it to November 13, and now they shifted again to November 30. I mean, you wouldn't say, and what were they asking for? They were asking for something as basic that is not even money as the Polytechnics Act. That is not money. We are not doing anything about it. They are saying that people are looking down technical education in Nigeria and that nothing is being done about that.
I think money is also part of it because
of course. I'm not saying that money is not there. There is money, and there would be. But I'm saying that there are some low-hanging fruits
that can be handled.
That could be handled. That will show that actually that you really mean business with these people. But we've not even demonstrated that, as basic as they are.
Does the government really mean business when it comes to our education system?
Well, there are very strong indications that government doesn't mean business, because this thing, you know, even we at the editorial boards of newspapers are beginning to wonder, well, all the time strike. And we face consequences of all these strikes because we always worry about people even writing, just basic writing, products of our universities. Even people holding Nigerian first degrees to go abroad now for postgraduate degrees are being suspected. Because all these stories are recorded by various universities around the world, looking at what is happening in Nigeria. When people get Chevening scholarship, for instance, British assistance to people to produce future leaders, Chevening scholarship, when they go in September, they know the date, they will return to the country. Yes. Just exactly a year. They give you the visa like that. My wife has benefited from Chevening scholarship, so I know the story, and I know so many that have benefited from this program. The thing is beyond the government is not showing seriousness. We have written at The Guardian, we have written so many editorials on this one. Even today's editorial is on it. Look at it, funding education beyond emergency declaration. Because government just asked at the National Economic Council, they asked state governors to declare emergency on education in their various states. We said, no, it's beyond this thing. Because as we are talking about this, you saw that even in a recent book launch by a former president, one of the vauntings was that he established so many universities. University education is not a tea party. It requires is capital intensive. Very capital intensive. If you see a faith-based university in Ottawa, we don't want to advertise any university, is receiving international recognition, not because they know how to preach, because of robust investment. The other time when Ebola virus, when this breakout, you saw that a faith-based university, specifically the Redeemers University, laboratory was the one that was recognized with one other federal university's laboratory to get a test that can be trusted. What are we saying? Attention to education is the issue here. Attention to education at all levels, primary, secondary and university. If we do not pay attention to education, all these development issues we are talking about, Second Niger Bridge, Papa Port and all those things, engineering and all those things that we are talking about, unless we pay attention to education, we cannot get development, because there is a correlation between quality in education and development. All over the world, it is well known. If you look at Africa, that have said this one so many times, if you look at Africa alone in global rating of universities, of the 10 best universities in Africa, you'll find most of the time 7 or 8 in South Africa. 2 in Egypt. One of the best university in Nigeria is hovering around 33, 38. In Africa, the most populous black nation on earth, about 200 million people. How many universities? It is not enough to establish universities. University products are to solve problems of society. To solve problems of society, if we are producing graduates that cannot solve our local problems, why are we producing them? So it is a product of research, innovation that is coming up everywhere, whether in any kind of valley in the United States, whether with Samsung in South Korea, anywhere. It's a result of research from the university system. So just as we talked about this thing when we discussed this editorial at the editorial board of The Guardian, we examined how even South Korea of less than 60 million people, how they fund education. Apart from having a minister in charge of education, they also have a minister in charge of knowledge development. They value knowledge. They put so much money on research. Look at these university lecturers always going on strike on basic things.
Especially funding.
Funding.
Yeah.
Funding. They will sign an agreement. Since 2009, they have been. How long will it take administrators in Nigeria to sit down with these people to even do some development plan on education in Nigeria? It's not enough to just sit down and declare emergency. What is beyond emergency? It's robust funding, as he said, cost some wastages. They have been talking about UNESCO, United Nations, 26% and all those things. There was a time in this country when Chief Obafemi Awolowo budgeted more than 50% of the budget of Western region on education. And the result is stay there.
Quickly hold the thought. We have Nelson on the line calling from Edo State. Nelson, welcome to the program. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your guest.
All right, welcome.
Good evening.
You see, regarding the educational system in Nigeria, the fact is that the educational system in Nigeria has turned to a laughing stock. There is a fact. The bedrock of development of every nation in the world is education. And our politicians and our leaders, they know that if an average Nigerians are educated, they cannot be what? They cannot be maneuvered. They cannot be deceived by their political discrepancy. But what I'm trying to say is that, you see, these leaders, at the time they went to school in Nigeria, they were paid to go to school. You can ask your guests in the studio. I grew up close to University of Benin, in Benin City, Edo State. I knew that time my elder brother was paid by government to go to school. They were giving lunch, they were giving breakfast, they were giving dinner, they were even giving textbooks to go to school. Why are they not depriving Nigerians? People that were paid to go to school in Nigeria, they're not depriving the Nigerians to go to school.
All right,
what are they trying to do?
Nelson, thank you so much for your contribution. We really need to manage our time here quickly. Wrap up.
Yes, I was saying that there is this correlation between the quality in our education and development. Yeah. We can talk about it, we can be so many oracles and orators who have to face the reality of funding education in a robust manner. There have been so many workshops, so many papers, so many of this, but we need a leader who will recognize that we need to put so much money on education because the schools have broken down. Apart from what we find in some private institutions, the federal university system deserves some attention more than all these frivolous things that are leading to strikes and strikes and strikes. I think we should strike out this problem.
Okay. Well, according to reports, the government's reason for not implementing the needs assessment report of 2014, which is that's about 4 years ago.
Polytechnics?
Yes, that's for ASUP, is because it is still searching for sources of funding. Well, we've been talking about robust funding from the government, but can the government really handle funding alone?
Whether they handle alone or with the private sector, or get development partners, it is the responsibility of government. What is the government policy? What have they come up with? How much will it cost? In 1955, when Chief Obafemi Awolowo was introducing the free education program, you needed to see the policy papers by people like Professor Awokoya and Ajashi and co. All of them were given responsibilities. They knew the number of classrooms they must build every year in the next 5 years. Yeah. They knew how much it would cost. They knew, they were able to get to the last, how much will it cost us? And then they came up with how do we fund? They thought about tax and all those. They were able to come up with that. But now, what has our government put on the table before us. And I'm not just talking of this government. Our government, successive governments, we failed in these respects. So it is they who come up with it, they've not come up with anything. Yes, government alone may not be able to do it, but what have they done to tell us how it will be done? We are not doing anything. In terms of, only very recently are they talking about expanding the tax nets, as it were, and that the FIRS has now been able to generate up to 4.something trillion naira a year and all that. But even at that, we do not have people who are diligent enough in government, who are able to come up and tell us what we intend doing in the next 10 years. There was a time in this country when we used to have development plans, 5-year development plans. Under Gawa, we had it. But now, everybody's living from hand to mouth. There are no plans for health, no plans for education, no plans for anything. We are talking of the universities. Even a VC, a former vice chancellor, was discussing with me sometime, and he said he went for a conference abroad, and they were talking about, he said, he told them that you don't know what we are facing as administrators. We have to think about water, we have to think about electricity, and all those ones. And the students will go on riot because they don't have something as cheap. You don't worry about such things here. You're worried about the more important things.
All right.
The academics, the laboratories, they're not there.
Let's quickly move on now. Politics in Nigeria has been dubbed a bread and butter democracy, where politicians and citizens strive for what they can get from the system rather than what they can contribute. As the country inches towards another election year, people are aligning to where they feel their bread could be buttered. On Wednesday, Southeast leaders met behind closed doors with President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja, where they demanded, amongst others, fast-tracking of the second Niger Bridge and Enugu Airport. At the meeting were Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, Governors Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State, Ifeanyi Wanyi of Enugu, Okeze Ekpazu of Abia, and the Anambra State Deputy Governor Nkem Okeke. We hear that the President promised them that the region will get a better deal in 2019. Well, I don't know if this is a situation of bread being buttered democracy, but as some will see it, perhaps some of the people who were part of this meeting are saying that it is not political. But when you look at the timing, can we really separate that aspect from it? Because when you look at some of the political leanings of these governors who were part of the meeting, you'd really wonder, is this really political?
It looks like we are just joking. You cannot be holding such a meeting at this point and you think it's not political. Of course, it's very political. There's no doubt whatsoever about that. And does it also show that maybe they want to enlist the people and hoodwink them? Because at a time like this, you go to a president with a list of the things he wants done, and he is a candidate in that election, he won't throw it at you. The least he will do is say, yes, we'll look into it, we'll do something about it, even if nothing is done. I mean, the second Niger Bridge did not start with this administration.
Of course.
Now, what did Dr. Jonathan Lewis from the South, what did he do with it? How far did he go? Yeah, what did Obasanjo do about it? And then President Buhari has been there. It's almost 4 years. How far have we gone with it? They said they have released about 10 billion naira. 7 billion naira mobilization.
Out of 206.
Out of 200. Just when the election is close by. I mean, we are not jokers. It's as if we don't know what we want to. We are up to.
Do you share the same view?
Well, definitely, I share the same view. You look at the political content. The last word of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, that is the powerhouse. Mustafa Boss, powerhouse of the presidency. After everybody had talked about data and all those things like that, he said, look, the quickest way to Igbo presidency in 2023 is support for President Muhammadu Buhari. End of story. That was a political statement. Yeah. It means that was the specific objective of going there to maybe do some arm twisting at this time to reduce the 42 months
24.
Yes, to
Yes,
24.
to 24.
And to increase the funding, that the mobilization fee
Yes.
should be up to 50% and
Yes.
not this 7, you
Billion
release
is-
7 billion. That is
is-
why there are so many abandoned projects all over the place. Like I said, 20 years into our democracy, almost 20 years by May. Next year we'll be talking about 20 years of unbroken democracy. Where are the dividends in terms of critical infrastructure? Is it, as I asked in the column that I write, a Papa Port Road that has caused this gridlock in Lagos? What? How many of our people have been, even chairman, managing director, Chief Bode George had been chairman there. What did he do? President Obasanjo was there for 8 years, even in Southwest. How many times have people talked about this thing? Our people are going there now. They're talking about geometric power plant in Aba. After about 4 years now of a particular administration.
Quickly, let's just quickly take this call. Yakub calling from Lagos. Welcome to the program, Yakub. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Yeah. And then good evening to the gentleman in the studio.
Good evening.
I don't know, maybe I can comment on the last topic before this one. You see, Veronica, to me, the question we need to ask ourselves is this. How many of these political leaders' children in this public school, all their children, they are outside the country studying, believing that when they get a quality education, they will come back to come and rule Nigerian citizens. And then they forget one thing. If you deprive ordinary citizens of this country a good education, your children that you send outside this country to go and acquire a very quality education, and then you prefer them to come back and rule us, we are going to give them problems. The issue is this: until we make a law whereby if you are a political leader, maybe you are president or governor, as case may be, they make law whereby your children must go to the same school that the ordinary citizens of this country go. The same thing where Babaja kind of did when he was the governor of this Lagos state. He made sure that his children passed through all this public school. So that is the solution. If failure to make law for mandatory to these people to send their children to the same school.
All right, Yakub, thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
No, definitely. Yeah, as I was saying, many other groups will surely visit with this list of demand. Yes, wish list from various regions. You know, we have 774 local governments, 36 states, 6 distinct geopolitical zones, though not in the constitution. Yes. On that basis, we rule the country. From various geopolitical zones, many people, the Southwest people will come again and go to the president or this thing. They should, demonstrate some aspect of restructuring we demand by being brand ambassadors, that this is what we are doing on our own in our region with, for instance, the DAWN, Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. And they also have that kind of thing in the South-South, in the Southeast. They have commission, they have director general. But these governors should be more organized, should be more coordinated in facing development agenda in all these areas. They do not tell their stories with data. As he said, that it was not this administration that began. They have awarded the contract of Second Niger Bridge so many times over in the last 20 years. Where are the papers? Where they should tell the stories with some data so that people will even know history of how many contractors have handled this thing. We are releasing 7 billion out of 206 billion, about 199 billion. What will the contractor really do with 7 billion? The answer to this kind of thing will continue to blow in the wind. Why? All as we come, everybody will be going. Restructuring is really very important. It's not about politics. It's not about 2019 or 2023. Restructuring of the federation. To talk about, he was mentioning Awolowo. We're talking about all this thing. University of Ife was not a federal university. No, it wasn't. Right. Until 1975, it was seized. ABU was also seized. And what have you?
All right,
UNN too was seized. Quickly. By these people.
The president has promised a better deal for 2019. What do you foresee for them? Because, well, you will have to explain that to them.
For them?
Yes, he's promising.
For the Southeast?
Yes.
Oh, yes, the president will make that deal. Will make that declaration. If the Southwest goes like he said, he will say the same, the better deal for you. the not better deal for you? Unfortunately, of course, we've had him in government for 3.5 years, almost 4 years.
Yes.
All of us will be able to come to our own judgment as to what he has delivered to us within that period, or what the PDP did for its own 16 years that they want to return, or what Mr. Atiku himself, who has been vice president also for some years, and for the first 4 years, he was almost totally in charge of the economy of Nigeria and its privatization. All of them will come and tell us, because it's not just making declarations. Anybody can declare. Okay. And it's laughable because in most cases when elections are pending like this, all we say is that we'll pay special attention to education. Yes. We'll declare emergency in that. It means it's vacuous, meaning absolutely nothing. Let's see it. How? How will you do it? How much will it cost? Who is going to do what? We don't get to get answers to all those things. Everybody just stays and says, yes, education will receive special attention, water, whatever. It's like we are regressing over the years rather than advancing.
But then, for the president, with this promise, do you think it will garner him more support from the Southeast come 2019?
Well, this is journalists' hangout. We take advantage of this space to talk to even ourselves that it is, as I quoted Winston Churchill the other time, a period of consequences. The consequences of what we're talking about like that, we have a responsibility to ourselves. PDP, for instance, has been around for 16 years. We're there. This one now, 4 years. We should do some data and investigative journalism. We have a responsibility at this time, not to just be harassing people with oratory and all those things, data and some investigative reports about what all these people have done, even with the university system, with education, road construction, all these people from Apapa ports, who has promised what, who has been there, and what have they promised, how many governments have actually signed contracts on second Niger Bridge. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway for 20 years, for goodness sake, cannot be completed. Everybody will come here with this kind of thing or the other. It's a period of consequences. All politicians should face consequences. As it is often said here, that this is the time they should be afraid of the people. Absolutely. Because of what they have promised. We should juxtapose their promises with what they have performed, with what they have delivered. Whether they have delivered services to the people, this is the time to assess them. And we should do justice to that instead of just blaming people and saying, look, why are you running from this place to the other?
Quickly, your final word.
Well, I want to take it off from what he has just said. This is the time to establish people's power. And it's our duty as the media, as the civil society, to tell the people, to mobilize the people, to lead the people in asking the right questions of their leaders, who must take them to task.
All right. Martin?
Oh, definitely. I think that is this is where the people should express their own power. It's democracy. It should be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Yes, it's people and people. If you haven't served the people, this is a period of consequences.
All right, consequences. Gentlemen, thank you for your submissions on the various topics we've discussed today. Thank you so much for coming. Well, that's all on Journalist Hangouts. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Dani Boy. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.